The Heavy Knight class is known for its superior defense, which it uses to draw enemy attacks and protect allies. However, its abilities are considered less practical than other defensive classes. With laughable fighting capabilities, it is nearly impossible for a Heavy Knight to raise their level. For these reasons, the class is considered beyond bad luck and is labeled as simply defective. The first chapter begins with Elma standing resolutely. Elma recalls that for as long as he can remember, he's experienced a strong sense of déjà vu whenever he learned something new. This feeling intensified on the day he was to undergo the sacred ritual of divine blessing as the heir to the Edvon family. His father Isis reassured him, telling him to trust in the god of the sword. The priest then called Elma's Edvon forward to bestow upon him a class. As the priest performs the baptisma, Elma's recognizes the sensation. He realizes this feeling dates back even before his own birth. It dawns on him that this world is a perfect copy of a VR MMORPG from his past life, a game called Magic World. With this newfound knowledge, Elma's wishes for the class he adored in the game. He wished for the one everyone called the Broken class for its power. A status screen appears, showing him as Elma's Edvon level 1 with the class of Heavy Knight. Overjoyed, he turns to his father and proudly announces his new class. He is met with a stunned silence. His father reacts with horror, asking what he just said and demanding to know if he is certain he did not receive the Master Swordsman class. Elma's is jolted into reality, realizing his game knowledge had muddled his understanding of this world. Here, easily understood powerful classes are everything, while late bloomer classes suffer terrible reputations. As Elma's tries to speak, his father snatches the status card from his hand. Isis roars in disbelief at the confirmation of the Heavy Knight class, calling it a defective class with below-average stats. Elma's desperately tries to explain that his HP and defense are the highest of any class, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. Isis strikes his son across the face, shouting that such details are irrelevant. He fumes about the shame Elma's has brought upon the family name, thankful this happened privately. As Elma's recovers, the sound of clicking heels announces someone's arrival. A young woman with long dark hair steps forward. It is Maris, who announces that she has also been cleared to undergo the ritual of divine blessing and asks if she may proceed. Elma's recognizes the girl as Malice, the daughter of a branch family of the Edvons. They played together as children, but for the last 5 years they haven't spoken. His father curtly tells the priest to begin her ritual at once. As he watches, a bad feeling creeps over him. The priest complies, initiating the baptisma. With a smirk, she notes her new class is Master Swordsman. Looking down at the distraught Elma's, she taunts him, saying it seems she has usurped any talent he might have received. Elma's bad feeling proved correct. Isis beams with pride, declaring that he expected nothing less from an Edvon. He then makes a shocking proclamation. Starting today, Malice is officially his daughter and the heir to the Edvon household. Elma's watches in horror. His father embraces Malice. She seems surprised, murmuring his new title for her. In her new father's arms, Malice addresses Isis, mentioning his previous thoughts about Elma's. With a twisted grin, she adds that she always believed Elma's was incapable of succeeding as the next head of the family. Isis turns his fury back to Elma's, telling him to leave. He declares that Elma's has betrayed his expectations and is no longer his son. Elma's pleads that the class is powerful, but Isis silences him, banishing him and forbidding him from ever showing his face again or using the Edvon name. His father would not listen to a word he said. Before the day was even over, Elma's was handed a small amount of money and banished from the manor. He was forced to leave his home behind. Now in a room at an inn, Elma's collapses onto the bed. He curses his father for treating him like garbage. He has lost everything, his home, his family, his life. However, a flicker of hope remains. He still possesses the Heavy Knight class, which he knows is the most powerful class in this world. Looking out the window, Elma's notes that the world's history and geography are different from the game, meaning he'll have a lot to research. First, he decides to verify his class and skills. He summons his status screen, worried that the game's broken features might have been removed. After checking his skill tree, he sighs in relief, thankful that they are the same. He recalls the mechanics of the skill tree, which allows a player to select which skills they will learn. He has 5 bonus points to start with, and will gain 1 more each time he levels up. A player's fate is largely determined by how they assign their skill points. A skill tree comes with 1 fixed class skill and 2 randomly assigned skills. For him, the fixed skill is Oath of the Heavy Armor. In the game, Oath of the Heavy Armor was marked as the weakest skill tree because it was powerful but incredibly difficult to use correctly. The defense booster was a decent skill that continuously boosted defense. Beginner swordsmanship wasn't a bad choice either, as it could eventually evolve into the swordsman skill tree. Despite this, Elma decides to invest all 5 of his skill points into the Oath of the Heavy Armor skill tree. As he allocates the points, his skill levels up. At level 2, he unlocks the common skill Rampart Reflection, and at level 5 he unlocks a new skill, Defense plus 10. With a determined grip of his fist, he feels confident that he can do this. Now properly equipped, Elma leaves the town behind. He ventures into the wilderness to begin his new life as an adventurer. In the forest, he encounters a monster known as a rana. He calmly checks its status. He confirms it's a level 2 creature. The frog-like monster prepares to strike. The rana leaps into the air, its long tongue lashing out to attack. Elma stands his ground, unfazed, ready for the incoming strike. Just as the creature's tongue is about to hit him, Elma activates his skill, Rampart Reflection, meeting the attack head-on. The attack is instantly nullified, and the force is sent back at the rana, causing it to explode on impact. With the monster defeated, Elma levels up from 1 to 2. He remarks that the aftermath is rather gross to look at. His skill, Rampart Reflection, intercepts incoming close combat attacks and deals damage back to the enemy based on his own defense stat. He pulls a level 2 magic stone from the monster's remains. Though it's a cheap item, he decides to take it. Just then, a desperate cry for help echoes through the forest. A terrified adventurer comes crashing through the trees, screaming that he's going to be killed. He spots Elma's and begs for help. A swarm of ranas is hot on his heels. The swarm of ranas hops relentlessly forward. Elma calmly steps in front of the panicked adventurer, Ares, and tells him to leave them to him. Ares is shocked, asking if he can really take them all out and wondering if Elma is some kind of famous adventurer. Elma explains that he's actually a brand new adventurer who just leveled up. Ares despairs, shouting that it's hopeless. He believes a newbie would be weaker than him and has no chance of defeating so many monsters. Elma calmly tells the other adventurer to take off his heavy armor. The ranas leap to attack. Ares grits his teeth, ready for the worst. As the frogs make contact with Elma, they are instantly obliterated by the reflected damage from his Rampart Reflection skill. One after another, the ranas continue their futile assault, smacking into Elma's armor and exploding into nothing. In a matter of seconds, the entire swarm is wiped out. Ares stares in disbelief at the carnage, asking how he really took out all those ranas and demanding to know who he is. Elma decides against using his family name. Turning to the stunned adventurer, he introduces himself simply as Elma, the Heavy Knight. This marks the end of the first chapter. Having wiped out the entire swarm of monsters, Elma's level skyrockets from 2 to 8, and he earns the title of Immovable One. Elma pulls up his status screen, confirming his new level and abilities. He feels confident that his knowledge of this world as the game Magic World is accurate. Suddenly, Ares' voice cuts through the silence, calling his name. Ares formally introduces himself, explaining that he's a new adventurer from a countryside village. His party told him he couldn't be trusted unless he reached level 3 on his own. He sincerely thanks Elma again for saving him. Elma dismisses the thanks, stating he was just there to earn money. He then informs Ares that he'll be taking all the mana stones as his reward. Eagerly, Ares invites Elma to join his party, suggesting they could team up once they are done in the forest. He asks if Elma is tired of hunting alone, acknowledging that defense classes are unpopular. Ares insists that Elma is an amazing guy and promises he will convince the other party members. Elma silently crushes a mana stone in his hand, thinking that it's not going to happen. He politely thanks Ares for the offer, though. Ares presses on, questioning why Elma would refuse since his class is defense-oriented and won't be able to level up through solo play. Elma simply apologizes, turning away. He knows Ares is right. The true strength of a defense class is demonstrated by shielding allies in a group. However, that is not how he wants to level up, as being in a party would force him to distribute experience points. His true objective is to acquire rare items, skills, and titles. Having too many people around would only attract suspicion. He absolutely cannot reveal his true capabilities this early on, especially to his former family. Ares shouts that he is saying all this for Elma's own good. He insists that while Elma is amazing, his current method is inefficient. As he yells for Elma not to be so stubborn, a pair of glowing eyes appears in the dark woods behind him. Elma's expression shifts to one of alarm. A monstrous spider-like creature with sharp claws bursts from the trees, letting out a terrifying screech as it looms over them. Ares can only stare in wide-eyed terror at the sudden and deadly threat. The creature shrieks again, its spindly legs poised to strike. Ares panics, screaming in disbelief about why such a monster is in this area. Elma, however, remains composed and immediately calls up the monster's status. The creature slams one of its sharp legs down, forcing Ares to dodge. The status screen reveals the monster is a level 16 demon, an Alander ape. Elma recognizes it as a high-level demon, far stronger than himself. He deduces it must have used a stealth skill to approach them undetected. These demons are known to be swift, spit movement-hindering poison, and use a powerful skill called Blazing Claws. Elma knows his Rampart return skill is nearly useless against such a high-level foe unless he can perfectly block a direct hit. He realizes that a single strike from its Blazing Claw skill would mean certain death. Beside him, Ares collapses in despair, blaming himself for attracting the demon with his shouting. Steeling himself, Ares stands and declares he will act as a decoy while Elma escapes. But Elma calmly stops him, saying it's fine. He tells Ares to leave the monster to him, as he will take it on himself. Ares protests, insisting it's a hopeless fight. Elma acknowledges that, as he is now, he can't win against this monster. Ares continues to shout that Alander apes are not demons beginners can defeat. He argues that no matter how amazing Elma is, he can't physically overcome a demon that huge. Ignoring him, Elma accesses his status screen. He recalls the skill points he obtained from leveling up to 8. He decides to invest them all into the vow of the heavy armor skill tree. Elma decides to bet everything on this move. A notification confirms he has acquired the normal skill Disarm. The skill reduces the attack power of a slashed opponent for a short period. Specifically, it reduces attack power by 20% for exactly 1 minute after a successful hit. He knows this is the skill he needed to defeat the Alander ape. With his new skill acquired, Elma turns to face the screeching demon head-on, declaring that he will be its opponent. The Alander ape lunges, and Elma braces for impact. He thinks to himself that this is a high-risk, high-return situation. It is in moments like these that his soul burns with excitement the most. A large, spider-like monster lets out a piercing shriek. Elmas and his double engage the beast in combat. He knows the creature's patterns and reach, but acknowledges that it will not be an easy victory. He slams his weapon into the ground, a magical circle appearing at the point of impact. The creature rears back, gathering energy. It unleashes a torrent of poison from its mouth in an attack called Light of Poison. Deciding to take a chance, Elmas braces himself for the incoming attack. He is engulfed by the full force of the poisonous blast. Pushing through the attack, Elmas lands a blow on the monster, using a skill to disarm it. While the hit had little effect, it successfully inflicted a reduction to the creature's attack power. The monster hisses in anger. It crosses its sharp front appendages to unleash a powerful flame claw attack. The monster lunges forward, slashing viciously with its claws. Watching from the bushes, Ares cries out in alarm. The attack misses Elmas and strikes the ground. Elmas easily dodges the attack, coolly stating that it will not work. He knows that the monster's poison light costs more MP than its other attacks. The monster's MP is low, with its flame claw costing 5 points. He seizes the opportunity to land another disarming strike. With 2 hits from his disarm skill, the monster's attack has been reduced by 40%. Furthermore, his title as the Immovable grants him a defense buff for standing still. Elmas declares that the conditions for his victory are now met. The weakened monster lets out a final desperate shriek. It charges forward in a last-ditch effort. Elmas calmly sidesteps the futile attack. With a focused gaze, Elmas stands firm as the monster's attack misses. Elmas unleashes a powerful counterattack, a skill called Rampart Return, striking the monster with immense force. The monster collapses, defeated. Telling the beast that is enough, Elmas prepares to deliver the final blow. With the battle won, he levels up from 8 to 12 and acquires 4 new skill points. He receives a message stating he can no longer upgrade his Vow of the Heavy Armor. He finds the message familiar, noting that this method still exists in this world. By reaching level 15 in Vow of the Heavy Armor, he has acquired the Parry skill. Pleased to have all basic skills, his celebration is interrupted when Ares calls out to him. Ares runs to Elma's, astounded by his power and wondering what he truly is. He admits he shouldn't have worried, realizing Elma's could easily make a living with his strength. His relief turns to concern when he notices Elma's condition, asking if he is poisoned as a status indicator confirms it. Weakened, Elma's thanks Ares and offers to escort him to the city, leaning on him for support. Having arrived in Randalm City, Elma's first order of business was to register as an adventurer. He approached the counter at the local guild and stated his intention to register. He introduced himself as Elma, a level 12 heavy knight. The guild receptionist acknowledged his defensive type class. After a firm press of her stamp, his registration was approved. With that, Elma was officially an F-class adventurer. Adventurers are divided into 7 ranks, and a party needs at least 1 member of E rank or higher to enter a dungeon. Elma realized his Vow of the Heavy Armor skill was also rank-locked. He knew he needed to rise to A rank as soon as possible. As he considered his next move, 2 other adventurers nearby took notice of him. The men began to mock him, laughing loudly about a low-level heavy knight trying to find a party. The entire guild hall seemed to join in their derisive laughter. The receptionist then explained to Elma that there was little demand for tanks, so finding party members might take time. Understanding the situation, Elma decided he would think about forming a party later. Elma returned to the desk and emptied a large sack of monster stones, asking to exchange them for money. The receptionist was stunned by the quantity, asking if he had gathered them all by himself. Elma confirmed that he had hunted them alone and asked her to report it as such. Watching from a distance, the 2 bullies scoffed in disbelief, wondering aloud if he had stolen them. With his registration complete and his funds secured, Elma was ready for the next step. He felt a familiar thrill, ready to use the magic words from his past life. He turned back to the receptionist and eagerly asked if there was a promotion quest he could take. She hesitated, replying that there was one, but her tone was wary. The promotion quest led him to a graveyard, where a group of adventurers had assembled for a raid. A large, heavily armored man with a prominent mustache approached, announcing that he'd heard a punk would be participating and was surprised to see it was Elma. Garten immediately began to yell at Elma, accusing him of being a typical newbie who underestimated both the guild and the monsters. He scoffed at the claim that Elma killed a level 12 Alander ape, calling it nonsense. Garten threatened to beat some sense into him. Garten glared down at him, clearly agitated. Elma was annoyed by the terrible situation. However, he knew that a promotional raid quest was a rare opportunity he would have to endure. Choosing to de-escalate, Elma gave a slight bow and formally asked to be treated well. Garten grunted dismissively but seemed to accept the gesture. He then called out to another adventurer named Tails, telling him it was time to start. The adventurer named Tails activated a search skill. He quickly located a group of about 30 monsters up ahead. Garten gave a curt compliment, which Tails accepted with smug satisfaction. He boasted that his amazing skill made him worthy of a promotion to A rank anytime. Elma watched the exchange, confused. Tails then addressed Elma directly, noting that his actions at the guild had become gossip. He introduced himself as a red mage, a class with high physical skills and a variety of offensive, recovery and support spells. He ended his introduction by pitying Elma for being stuck with such a trashy class. Elma coolly replied that he was quite fond of his class. Tails scoffed at this, calling it drivel. He then told Elma to at least not hold them back. Internally, Elma considered the red mage class a powerful jack-of-all-trades in games. He mused that since this world isn't a game, versatile classes are naturally treated more favorably. Garten gathered the party to clarify the plan. The undead army they faced was led by a ghoul head, and as a D-class adventurer, he would take it down himself. He ordered the rest of the party to maintain distance and deal with the smaller enemies. He warned them that he wouldn't help anyone who got into trouble. The other adventurers, including Ares, listened nervously. The main boss was a ghoul head, a level 30 monster. While it lacked direct offensive skills, its ability to use undead breath to reanimate corpses was a major threat. Garten boasted that with a level 40 D-rank adventurer like himself present, they shouldn't lose if the plan was followed. Elma, however, seemed to have his own reservations. As he observed his temporary comrades, he saw the cowardly looks on their faces. He also noted the blatant arrogance of Garten and Tails. With these factors in mind, he calculated that the chances of everyone making it out of this raid alive were only around 80%. In a grim graveyard, Elma reflects on the permanent consequences of death in this world, unlike in a game. He approaches the raid leader, Garten, suggesting that his orders should be more specific for the party's sake. Garten turns, annoyed by the interruption. Elma explains his concern that the undead group might not match the reports. He adds that he wants to avoid a worst-case scenario. Garten explodes in anger, questioning Elma's audacity to give him orders. Elma remains silent and composed in the face of his leader's fury. As the other adventurers look on nervously, one of them asks Garten for more detailed instructions. Elma explains to Garten that the others are scared because they are still low-leveled. Garten scoffs, muttering that he dislikes babysitting but sees he has no other choice. Suddenly, another adventurer with a feathered hat steps forward, mockingly questioning Elma's request. He puts an arm around Elma, sneering that only those with trash classes like his should be afraid of the undead. He claims the others will just get rowdy from fear and come crying to Garten. The man with the feathered hat tells Garten they don't need any instructions. He suggests Elma can run to the back if he's scared, just as undead hands begin to burst from the ground. He turns back in confusion as the situation escalates. The graveyard erupts as a horde of undead, led by a massive ghoul head, rises from the earth, and the man with the feathered hat freezes in terror. Elma prepares for the imminent battle. Garten also readies himself for the fight. The ghoul head lets out a deafening roar. The terrified adventurer stumbles backward in panic. Garten springs into action, yelling at his disorganized party. He orders Tail and another adventurer named Pole to cover his flanks. The party members scramble to follow his orders. Elma calmly assesses the ghoul head, noting its simple club is not a major threat. He then shouts a new plan to the group. He will handle the smaller undead, while the rest of them focus on the large boss. A young adventurer, Ares, looks on in disbelief, questioning the idea of charging into such a large group. The other adventurers are hesitant, worried about being overwhelmed by the whites if they get separated from their leader. He realizes it's their first time fighting a horde of monsters, which explains their nervousness. Elma understands their hesitation, especially without clear orders against such creepy foes. He decides to take command. Elma instructs the party to split into groups of 3 and watch each other's backs, assuring them they can handle the whites together. Ares agrees to the plan. He then notices a white charging at Elma from behind, worrying that Elma will be left alone and vulnerable. A white swings at Elma. Ares watches in horror, but Elma, with swift precision, parries the attack, effortlessly deflecting the blow. He demonstrates the parry skill, a technique that uses a shield or sword to create an opening by warding off an opponent's attack. He stands ready as the undead horde charges him. He moves with incredible speed and skill, parrying one attack after another. His defensive prowess is on full display. Elma seamlessly transitions from defense to offense, using a disarming technique to knock the weapons from the white's hands. He follows up with a powerful move called Rampart Reversal that sends the creatures flying and shatters them. In an instant, Elma has cleared a path through the undead, standing far ahead of his stunned party. The adventurers, including a wide-eyed Ares, can only stare in disbelief. Elma turns back and tells them that if anything happens, they should alert their comrades, and he will come to their aid. From a safe distance, the other adventurers watch Elma's incredible performance in stunned silence. One of the younger members notes in awe that Elma has single-handedly defeated more than half of the whites. Another recognizes him as the rumored Heavy Knight, witnessing his legendary prowess firsthand. As the last of the nearby whites fall, Elma reflects on his strategy. His efforts are rewarded with a level up, granting him new skill points. He finds the parry skill more useful than he anticipated, especially against enemies at this level. Elma checks his status screen, seeing he is now level 16. He is pleased with the points he's accumulated. Meanwhile, Ares confesses to his companion that while Elma is reliable, he finds his power intimidating. He admits that Elma's overwhelming strength is now more frightening to him than the undead horde was. One adventurer screams as he is overwhelmed by a white. The rest of the party is exhausted, still fighting off the remaining few whites. They are catching their breath after the chaotic battle. One of the adventurers thinks they've defeated all the monsters. He asks Elma if he's going to help Garten with the ghoul head. Elma calmly explains that the boss's level is far too high for them and that it's better to let Garten handle it himself. Garten is shown visibly struggling in his fight. The massive ghoul head swings its crude club down with immense force. Garten stands his ground, expertly parrying the blow with his heavy axe. The ghoul head lets out a furious roar as its attack is thwarted. Refusing to yield, Garten shouts at the stubborn creature to stay down. Suddenly, Garten is swarmed by a fresh wave of wights that grab onto his arms and back, immobilizing him. He lets out a roar of pure frustration as he is held fast. After breaking free, Garten turns his fury on the other adventurers, screaming at them for not taking care of the wights. He calls them cowards with no nerve, declaring he has no interest in promoting them. The adventurer with the feathered hat nervously tries to explain that they were afraid of getting targeted by the ghoul head if they got any closer. A determined Garten turns his attention back to the ghoul head. He stomps forward, ready to re-engage the massive beast. He plants his feet firmly on the cracked stone. He grips his axe and winds up for a powerful swing, channeling all his strength into the attack. With a mighty roar, Garten unleashes his special move, Boulder Smasher, bringing the axe down in a devastating arc that connects squarely with the ghoul head's jaw. The monster cries out in agony from the powerful blow. The force of the blow sends the ghoul head reeling. Elma quickly checks the monster's status. He sees its health is critically low. He calculates that one more solid attack from Garten should be enough to finish it off. However, the remaining wights continue their assault on Garten. The other adventurers begin to panic. As one of them vows to handle the smaller undead, Elma shouts for them to wait. But his warning is too late, as the wounded ghoul head grabs a nearby wight and brings it to its mouth. The ghoul head devours the wight. To the party's horror, its wounds begin to visibly heal, restoring its health. Elma identifies the skill as corpse eating, but as he watches the creature, he senses that something is fundamentally wrong with this situation. Elma realizes there's no logical reason for the monster to eat so many undead if it only needs to heal once. The ghoul head lets out a strange, guttural scream. A horrifying possibility dawns on him. Believing the wights are no longer a threat, Garten dismisses the creature's healing. He charges forward, determined to land the finishing blow. Seeing the impending disaster, Elma screams at the top of his lungs for Garten to stop and get away from the monster immediately. The ghoul head's body begins to violently contort, its teeth growing into monstrous fangs. It undergoes a terrifying transformation, letting out an earth-shattering roar. The ghoul head undergoes a horrifying transformation. A system message confirms its evolution into a mad head, its level jumping from 33 to 40. Elma immediately recognizes the grave danger their party is now facing. The sudden power surge leaves Garten stunned and confused. Drawing on his game knowledge, Elma identifies the rare evolution as a last-ditch effort by a cornered monster. He realizes they were simply unlucky to have triggered it in this world. Seeing Garten frozen before the beast, Elma screams a desperate warning for him to get away. The mad head lets out a powerful roar. The blast dazes Garten, leaving him vulnerable. Elma takes command, shouting for Tail and Paul to distract the creature. Tail panics, certain that attacking the monster would mean instant death. Elma retorts that if Garten falls, they are all doomed anyway. The mad head seizes the opportunity, striking Garten with a powerful blow. The warrior is sent flying across the graveyard. He lands hard, completely paralyzed. With Garten down, the monster targets another adventurer, Celt. Elma springs into action, intercepting the massive claw with a well-timed parry. Though he holds his ground, the sheer force of the attack makes him cry out in exertion. Elma stands between the monster and his party. He declares he'll distract the monster and orders Tail to heal Garten's paralysis. Tail frantically explains that they don't have that skill, having focused on attack power. Annoyed but undeterred, Elma changes the plan, telling Tail to just drag Garten to safety and use a regular heal. Tail agrees and rushes to help. Elma calculates that the paralysis toxin will wear off in about 3 minutes, giving them a window for Garten to recover with Tail's help. He braces himself, realizing that the real-life stakes of this battle are far more intense than any game he's ever played. The imposing level 40 mad head stands before him, its health bar full, ready for a fight. With his sword at the ready, Elma defiantly challenges the mad head, vowing to be its opponent and buy enough time for Garten to recover. One adventurer insists an F-rank adventurer can't possibly survive, while the other urges him to be quiet so they can flee when Elma is inevitably killed. Elma is only level 16. His opponent, the Mad Head, is level 40. Elma understands that against such a powerful enemy, a single mistake could be fatal. He tightens his grip as the monster prepares to strike. The Mad Head throws a devastating punch. With unwavering focus, Elma prepares to meet the attack head-on. He deflects the blow with a perfectly executed parry. Even with the successful parry, the sheer impact sends Elma stumbling backward. He admits this is the kind of situation he had hoped to avoid. It's a high-risk, high-return battle that will test his skills to their absolute limit. Yet despite the immense danger, a confident smirk appears on Elma's face as he thinks that any real man would be fired up by a challenge of this magnitude. Two onlookers are shocked that the heavy knight, Elma's, is fighting evenly with the monster that defeated Garten. Ares observes the distant fight, noting that Elma's is clearly struggling. The monstrous creature glares menacingly, its size dwarfing the knight. Despite his injuries, Elma's maintains a look of fierce determination. The monster lunges forward with a powerful strike. Elma's narrowly dodges the creature's massive fist as it slams into the ground. He leaps back to create distance from the recovering monster. Elma's realizes he cannot continue avoiding the Mad Head's attacks and must rely on feints. A notification appears, showing his beginner swordsmanship skill leveling up. He has unlocked the skill Direct Slash, which is effective against high-defense opponents. As he processes this new development, the monster lets out a furious roar. Elma's braces himself and parries the monster's next attack. He grunts from the sheer force of the impact. The force of the blow drives his sword into the ground. He uses the momentum to pivot and prepare for a counterattack. Thrown off balance by the parry, Elma's falls to the ground. The monster is momentarily confused by his sudden movement. With his eyes fixed on his target, Elma's prepares to strike. He unleashes his newly acquired skill, Direct Slash. The attack lands, striking the beast squarely. The creature recoils from the unexpected close-range assault. Elma's reflects that while most consider Direct Slash a trash skill, it works surprisingly well for a heavy knight. He knows this single blow is not enough to defeat the monster. The monster bellows in pain and rage. Enraged, the monster swings its massive arm at Elma's, who deftly dodges. He taunts the creature, pointing out how sloppy its movements have become. The monster growls, its frustration mounting. The Mad Head continues its furious rampage. Elma's calmly states that the real fight is just beginning. He declares that his own role in it is now finished. The monster looks up, confused by a new presence. A figure descends from the trees above, weapon raised high for a powerful strike. The warrior Garten brings his axe down with immense force, unleashing his signature move, Dragon Slayer. The powerful axe slices through the air, aimed directly at the monster's head. Garten grits his teeth with a look of intense concentration. The Dragon Slayer attack lands true, embedding the axe deep in the monster's skull as Garten lands behind it. The monster's eye is gruesomely pierced by the blow. The creature's massive body collapses to the ground, defeated. As the monster disintegrates into light, Elma's stands over its remains. A notification shows that he has leveled up from 16 to 23. Garten watches in disbelief from a distance. He is stunned that a mere F-rank adventurer managed to survive an onslaught that had nearly killed even him. Exhausted, Elma's thanks Garten for saving him, admitting that he was at his limit. Garten approaches the kneeling Elma's. He remains silent, still processing the incredible feat he just witnessed. In a flashback to the aftermath of the battle, Garten stands over the fallen Elma's, offering an apology. Garten laments his poor leadership and management, admitting that everything unfolded just as Elma's had predicted. Later, in a graveyard, he tells Elma's to take a valuable magic stone that was dropped. Elma's recognizes the level 40 magic stone as a high-priced item he desperately needs. He questions if he can really take it. Garten insists, reminding him that it came from a monster he defeated. Garten notes that the monster also left behind a rare drop and contemplates giving it to Elma's. Garten becomes flustered, asserting that he doesn't go back on his word and that the item belongs to Elma's. Curious, Elma's asks to see the item's status. Elma's examines the rare drop, the Shield of Madness valued at 3 million gold. He realizes that with this shield, he could completely block attacks, unlike his armor's rampart return skill. He is torn, however, as he cannot ignore the shield's immense monetary value. Elma's brings up his promotion. Garten assures him he'll personally see to it that he's promoted to A rank. Elma is delighted by the news. Garten explains the guild had asked him to watch for foul play, but that concern is now gone, and he'll deal with anyone who objects. A woman named Tail approaches, asking Garten to recognize her for a promotion as well. Garten furiously rejects her plea, yelling that she held him back against the monster and is unworthy of a promotion. Garten harshly tells Tail to gather more experience before she comes back to him. She quietly agrees. She walks away, looking defeated as Elma watches on. She counts out the initial 130,000 gold. This is followed by 200,000 gold for white stones. Finally, Meeble prepares the reward for the Mad Head's magic stone. Meeble presents a massive bag containing 600,000 gold. Garten remarks with a laugh that Elma's earned more than him this time, acknowledging that raids are quite profitable. The receptionist looks on, questioning if that person was really Garten. The other adventurers in the guild hall begin to whisper amongst themselves, finding the situation suspicious. They question how a mere heavy knight could earn so many magic stones, and Elma overhears their doubtful comments. Enraged by the whispers, Garten slams his fist on the counter. He shouts at the crowd, declaring that their suspicion of Elma is a direct insult to his own judgment. The adventurers fall silent, intimidated by his outburst. Elma looks on with a smirk. Thanks to Garten's intervention, the crowd quieted down and Elma was safely promoted to E rank. Walking through town, he contemplates his next move. He realizes his current fighting style is becoming ineffective and decides he needs to find a particular item. The item he seeks is the skill book of the Smoldering Fang of Madness. He knows it is a necessary item to unlock the true potential of a heavy knight. Only when the skills Smoldering Mad Fang and Vow of the Heavy Armor are used together can a heavy knight be considered complete. A completed heavy knight transcends the role of a defensive specialist, and it isn't purely an offensive one either. It is considered the pinnacle of a human weapon. Elma walks through town, thinking about the importance of the Smoldering Fang of Madness. Given how rare the item is, he doubts he will find it in this town. Elma approaches the counter and asks for 3 bottles of healing potions. The shopkeeper calmly agrees to his request. He grimaces when she tells him the total comes to 72,000 gold. Though expensive, he understands it's a necessary sacrifice and pays. After the transaction, Elma tells the shopkeeper there is something else he wants to ask. He asks where he can buy skill books, having searched every store in town without success. The shopkeeper sighs at his ignorance, asking if it is his first year as an adventurer. She explains that dealings of skill books are banned. They are all bought by the Adventurer Guild for nobles and churches. Elma is stunned by this revelation. He realizes noble families have far more influence here than in the game. This means there is a high chance the skill books are being monopolized by his own family, the Edvans. The shopkeeper decides to make an exception and offers him some information as a bonus. She hands him a map with a marked location. It is a shop that sells dismantled items. Elma realizes this means items from dead adventurers and questions if they are allowed to operate without reporting to the guild. She clarifies that it's an unspoken agreement, as the guild knows about these black markets but looks the other way. She explains that the same corruption applies to skill books, which nobles hoard instead of giving to the bereaved. Elma clenches his fist, angry at his own ignorance of the world. He reflects that if his memories had not returned, he might have become a sword saint and perpetuated this system. As he leaves, the shopkeeper reminds him to keep her shop a secret, and he agrees. He finds the location from the map and enters. The interior is dusty and unkempt. Elma doubts that a place like this would actually sell skill books. To his surprise, he finds a shelf with several skill books. He counts 5 of them in total. A mysterious old woman appears, remarking on his shabby armor and telling him the shattered grimoire hall is no place for a youngster. Elma insists he has the money and asks to see the skill books. The shopkeeper smirks, telling him he is free to browse. He picks up a book for beginner archery, listed with a market value of 2 million gold. He is shocked, remembering the price was only 500,000 in the game. The shopkeeper informs him that her shop sells it for 3 million. Elma shouts in disbelief at the price. She explains she took great risks to acquire it, and that government officials thankfully turn a blind eye. With just under 1 million gold, Elma realizes he cannot afford even beginner skill trees, let alone the rare books he truly needs. He looks over the other available skill books. He identifies them as rare items, but none are what he needs right now. He turns his attention to the last book on the table. His eyes widen in shock as he sees it. He picks up the ornate clawed book. Elma stares in disbelief, exclaiming that he has found it. He excitedly identifies the book as a heavy knight's mandatory skill tree, smoldering mad fang. The shopkeeper remarks on his gleeful look, finding it strange that he would want such an item. She then reveals that the book costs 50 million gold. Elma's is left utterly stunned by the price. Elma's suggests she should use bodyguards for such high-priced items and bluffs that he recently beat 5 people. He then asks her to reserve the item, promising to gather the 50 million and return. The shopkeeper asks what is in it for her. Deciding she does not hate brats like him, she agrees to save it for him. Elma's is delighted by her decision. However, she adds that the reservation will cost an extra 5 million gold. Elma's slumps in defeat, admitting she is a shrewd one and that he needs to figure out his finances. Elma's contemplates the staggering 55 million gold he needs, calculating it 60 times his previous raid's reward. He laments that high-ranked adventurers and the stores that handle them must have a warped view of money. He acknowledges that while the smoldering mad fang is rare, its potential buyers are limited to heavy knights and berserkers. Determined, he decides he must think of a plan to earn the necessary funds. His first plan is to save money by collecting rare drops in the dungeon. However, he realizes heavy knights lack a reliable way to deal damage, making this plan unfeasible. His second idea is to farm mobs using his rampart return skill. He quickly discards this as well, knowing it would take far too long. His third plan involves learning beginner swordsmanship or other skills, but he decides against it to avoid wasting skill points on abilities that will become useless later. He reasons that teaming up with other adventurers would drastically increase his options. He mulls over the idea of finding some allies. His thoughts are interrupted when he overhears a group of adventurers who just found a valuable blood-stained sword. A jester named Luce excitedly claims the rare drop was entirely because of her skill. Her party members offer only silence in response to her declaration. Elma notes the party's composition, while Luce asks her companions to confirm it was all thanks to her. The swordsman thanks her, but admits he still doubts her ability was the cause of the rare drop. Luce insists it was her, and promises to show them she can make a difference on their next dungeon run. The swordsman confronts Luce, questioning if she really thinks someone as useless as her deserves a share. Luce is taken aback by his harsh words. She stammers that she fights on the front lines and deserves at least a fifth of the earnings. He retorts that even on the front lines, she has no decent attack skills and does little more than attract aggro. He concludes that as she is now, she is simply useless. She explains that the reason she has no attack skills is because Kleinsan told her how to build her skill tree. Luce angrily declares that it's unfair for him to say such things right after they found something valuable. Klein's expression hardens as he questions her accusation of unfairness. He begins to walk towards her, repeating her word. Klein tells her she is mistaken about the situation. He claims he only gave her advice, and she was the one who ultimately allocated the skill points, leaving Luce horrified. Watching from the sidelines, Elma identifies the conflict as an argument over skill allocation and reward sharing. He notes that these kinds of arguments were frequent in Magic World, often when a character's build became useless due to changing circumstances. The argument ends when Klein throws a pouch of 100,000 gold on the ground for Luce. Klein tells her to take the money and leave. Luce stands silently over the scattered coins. As they walk away, Klein scoffs at the idea that she would show her true colors over such a paltry sum, especially after they kindly accepted her into the party. The other adventurer, Reese, agrees with him. Reese adds that even though they are struggling, they still had to divide their money with Luce. Luce frantically tries to explain that wasn't her intention. She apologizes to Klein and Reese, saying she is fine without any cash from the sword. A look of despair crosses her face as she's told it's too late to apologize. Klein tells her she's a lost cause now and wishes her good luck wherever she ends up next. Elma observes that financial troubles and skill point allocation are often the root of party breakups. He reflects on the leveling system, where players must hunt opponents of at least the same level to progress. A poor skill point distribution makes this much harder, potentially halting a player's ability to gain levels. He wonders if Luce, a clown, put her points into support skills or something less useful. Suddenly, Elma has a realization, wondering if she could have that asterisk-specific skill tree. He questions why anyone would chase away someone with that ability and decides he must confirm it himself. As Luce apologizes and pleads to be let back into her party, she turns to leave. Elma suddenly grabs her hand to stop her. Luce is startled by the unexpected contact. With a desperate expression, Elma begs her to join his party. Completely shocked and confused, Luce asks who he is. Elma grabs Luce's hand, earnestly pleading for her to join his party. His expression is intense and determined. A startled Luce is completely fazed by the unexpected proposal. Elma quickly tries to calm the situation, even offering a generous 80-20 split on rewards. Luce nervously asks Elma to let go of her hand. Klein, Luce's former party leader, interrupts and demands to know who Elma is. Elma introduces himself as Elma and explains that he came to scout Luce after overhearing she was kicked out of her party. Klein questions Elma's sanity for wanting to recruit Luce. He points out that her battle power is so low she can't even level up properly. Elma confidently declares that her weakness is not a problem. Klein mockingly tells Elma he can have her, warning him not to regret it later. Klein smugly gives Elma permission to take Luce away. Elma coolly retorts that he doesn't need Klein's permission. His response visibly irritates Klein. Klein's hand tightens on the hilt of his sword. Klein confronts Elma, sword drawn, questioning his level and if he has any allies. Elma calmly states he is a level 23 solo heavy knight, which surprises Klein. Klein scoffs, pointing out how useless a level 13 like Luce would be to him. Luce, feeling downcast, agrees that she probably wouldn't be useful to Elma. Elma forcefully repeats that Luce's low level is not a problem. His sudden intensity startles Luce. His outburst also draws the attention of Klein and Reese, who seem puzzled by his insistence. Reese whispers to Klein, finding it strange that an adventurer would want Luce so badly. She realizes this might mean Luce's skill has a significant effect. Luce looks on, confused by the turn of events. Meanwhile, Elma realizes he may have been too direct in his approach. Klein dismisses Reese's concerns. He tells her to just let them leave without a fuss. He whispers his own theories, suggesting Elma is either lying about his level or was recently kicked out of a party. He concludes that Elma is most likely just interested in Luce. Reese reluctantly accepts his reasoning. Reese muses that letting Luce go might be for the best, as it would prevent rumors about them. Klein, now pleased with the outcome, happily tells Elma he can take Luce. Overhearing this, Luce timidly accepts Elma's offer with a bow. Luce beams, asking Elma to treat her well from now on. He agrees, reflecting that this is the moment he gained his first party member. As they part ways, Klein sarcastically congratulates them on forming a party. He mentions that Luce hasn't been able to afford proper weapons. He throws a bag of 100,000 gold on the ground, calling it a parting gift. Luce hesitantly thanks him. Elma stops Luce from picking up the money. He confronts Klein, telling him to pick up his own trash and that such a gesture is laughable. He states they don't want to be indebted to people like them, and leads a conflicted Luce away. Klein scoffs at the trash class as they depart. Later at a tavern, Luce thanks Elma for the party invitation. She expresses her self-doubt, feeling she is lacking in many ways. Elma reassures her, explaining that she can increase her level by fighting suitable monsters. Misinterpreting his kindness, Luce blushingly asks if he helped her because he fell in love with her at first sight. Luce continues to ramble about them starting as friends, assuming love is his motive. An exasperated Elma listens to her theory. He finally cuts her off to ask the real question, if one of her skill trees is the Great Fortune skill tree. In the world of Magic World, dungeons are said to be the nightmares of a sleeping god named Ulzaros. Legend states that Ulzaros emerged from the eternal void, creating countless other gods and the world itself. However, over an eternity, Ulzaros began to lose his mind and was ultimately sealed away by the very gods he had created. Ulzaros's nightmares seeped into reality, creating monsters and opening gates to the world. Standing near the entrance, Elma tells Luce he can see it. These portals are known as dungeons or dream holes, and they have arrived at the entrance to the Angel's toy box. Luce worriedly asks Elma if he's sure about teaming up with her, showing him her low stats. She explains that her only skill, dice thrust, is completely unreliable, only working if she rolls a 6. She sighs, wishing she had invested her skill points in something more practical like acrobatics or an attack power boost. Elma looks back at her and states simply, "Luce, I need you." Flustered by his directness, Luce asks what he means. Taking her words to heart, Elma declares that on this expedition, they will earn at least 30 million gold, and he will carry her to level 30. Luce is left completely stunned by his proclamation, while Elma reminds her not to show her status to others so easily. Elma explains that although the recommended level is 50, he knows the monsters well enough that they won't die. He tells her they will stick to farming the first floor. He instructs Luce that he will pull the enemies to him, and she must use her knife to take them down. Luce seems uncertain about the strategy, reminding him that they came this far based on her judgment. Holding the expensive iron piercer knife Elma bought for her, Luce feels a surge of determination. She promises Elma she will live up to the strange confidence he has in her, and he is glad to see she's motivated. As they walk, Elma notices something approaching from the shadows. A monster appears, a level 20 patchwork bear. Luce thinks it looks cute, but its level is intimidating. Elma explains that its attack power is low, and its movement can be stopped by attacking it just as it's about to strike. Surprised by his expertise, Luce asks if he's a fan of patchwork bears, which he denies. Elma lays out the battle plan. He will deal with the bear's attacks while Luce takes it down from its blind spot. As the bear shuffles forward, Elma prepares to use his skill, Shadow Stomp. He plans to use the skill, which prevents a target from moving by stepping on its shadow, to help raise Luce's level. Elma warns Luce to stay alert, as the shadows can be unpredictable. Luce is dismissive, remarking that it's not like the stuffed toy has claws or teeth. At that exact moment, the bear's stitched mouth rips open to reveal a massive maw filled with razor-sharp teeth. The monstrous bear charges forward. Elma watches its approach, unfazed. Elma swiftly intercepts the charging bear, using his large shield to pin it to the ground. Luce watches in awe. He remarks that it's a good thing he has a shield to stop the troublesome creature. With the monster subdued, he tells Luce to take it down. Luce, no longer charmed by its appearance, readies her weapon. Luce unleashes a series of strikes on the immobilized bear. Catching her breath, she notes that it was surprisingly durable, but she managed to defeat it. Elma asks how many levels she gained. As she checks, her expression turns to one of pure shock. Frustrated, Luce shouts at the defeated bear for not dropping any items, worried that she'll be kicked out of the party again. Elma reassures her, explaining that these monsters are just for power leveling. He adds that since they plan on farming more, drops will appear sooner or later. Just as he says this, another patchwork bear appears. He tells her to get ready to fight again. After defeating another bear, 2 items finally drop, and Luce is ecstatic, excitedly showing Elma the 2 bear shields she acquired. She proudly asks if he brought her along for this reason, and he agrees to take them off her hands. Elma is puzzled, as he knows the item's drop rate shouldn't allow for 2 to appear at once. Elma realizes the truth. Luce's special skill, Beckoning Kitty, increases her luck stat by 500%, making the rare drops possible. He wonders why her previous party leader, Klein, didn't notice this powerful ability. He concludes that their inexperience as a new party led them to believe they just had naturally good drop rates. A beaming Luce, holding her new shields, proudly asks Elma if she was useful. With a warm smile, Elma sincerely thanks Luce for joining him. Luce, overjoyed, jokes about collecting 10 more shields. Elma tells her that her level is now high enough, and that the real deal is about to begin. She is amazed to see she has leveled up from 13 to 20. Elma announces their new objective, much to Luce's surprise. From now on, they will be hunting the golden frog. Elma explains that the lana is a common frog monster, the first enemy he encountered in this world. He informs Luce that their target is a rare variant, the golden lana. Considering their situation, Elma has decided this is the only place for them to farm the creatures. Elma explains that while golden lanas are high level, they have low attack power, but killing one yields valuable rewards. He describes them as a gift bag of high experience, rare items, and harmless farming. In the game Magic World, players nicknamed them loot boxes because farming them was so enjoyable. Elma states that he knows the best routes to find golden lanas in this part of the dungeon. Luce chimes in, saying she has also heard of the golden lanas. She recalls adventurers at a tavern, saying that finding one could allow a person to live lavishly for years. Elma's is glad she knows, as it saves time. Luce continues, mentioning there was more to what the adventurers said. Luce explains that golden lanas are very fast and seem to take no damage when hit. She adds that adventurers can get surrounded by other monsters while chasing them. Luce shudders, realizing some adventurers must have lost their lives because of this. Elma agrees, noting that unlike in the game, death in this world is final, making the hunt much riskier. Elma adds that golden lanas have very high speed and defense and are immune to debuffs. Luce panics, asking if this means they can't do anything against them. She realizes her special knife would be useless, and she can't match their speed. Elma confirms that her iron piercer's penetration ability won't be enough against the Lana's defense. Elma explains that the Lana's speed far surpasses both of them, and its defense would render even his best attacks useless. Luce asks despairingly if their task is impossible. Elma reassures her that it is okay, as he has a plan. Elma confidently states that everything has a weakness if you know enough about them. He cryptically asks Luce if Elma has a skill that can damage the golden lanas, though she thinks heavy knights don't have such abilities. In response to her confusion, Elma simply smiles. Elma cheerfully declares that he is counting on Luce. Luce reacts with utter shock and disbelief. Elma instructs Luce to put her skill points from leveling up into the Fool's Acrobatics. He explains that the 2 skills she will get from it will be crucial to their hunt. A flustered Luce admits that she doesn't have that kind of ability. Her words catch Elma off guard as a monster appears from a dark doorway. A monster resembling a gift box leaps out to attack. Elma swiftly blocks the toy box monster's attack with his shield. He tells Luce they should run while they have the chance. Elma explains that it's not their target and cornering it will cause it to call for reinforcements. Luce nervously asks if they should only focus on finding a golden lana. Elma reassures her that their current levels are perfect for the fight and that they can level up on other monsters if necessary. He says he has already factored in their rarity, estimating they might find 2 if they search for another day. Luce is surprised to learn just how rare they are. Elma explains that their rarity is what makes the golden lanas so valuable. Luce gulps nervously, understanding the stakes. He tells her that even with her skills, it won't be easy, and she should speak up if she feels unsafe. Luce declares that she is okay and will follow Elma anywhere. Suddenly, her expression changes to one of shock as she spots something ahead. A small frog hops towards them down the long, empty hallway. Both Elma and Luce stare in disbelief as they identify it as a golden lana. Elma is shocked to find their target, a golden lana, so quickly. Beside him, Luce panics, frantically asking what they should do now that they have found one. Elma calmly tells Luce to take deep breaths, explaining that a cool head is necessary for a catch like this. As the golden lana hops away, he asks Luce if she used her unused skill points from leveling up, and she confirms that she has. Luce confirms she has acquired the 2 skills Elma mentioned earlier. He tells her it is time to execute their plan. He instructs her to wait for the golden rana and bait it towards him. Luce trembles with nervousness, trying to build her courage. Elma reassures her that it is okay even if she fails. Taking a deep breath, Luce steels her resolve. She declares she is ready to go. Confidently, Luce declares she will handle it and dashes forward. The situation is tricky, as golden ranas flay when an enemy enters a 4-meter radius. Coincidentally, the dungeon's halls are exactly that wide, making it difficult to approach undetected. However, there is a way around this. Luce activates acrobatic steps, running along the wall to bypass the rana's ground-based detection. The creature croaks in surprise, caught completely off guard by her clever maneuver. The golden rana turns to flee down the corridor. Luce pursues it along the wall, determined not to let it escape. Luce casts Doppel Illusion, creating multiple copies of herself to block the narrow passage. Elma explains that while the rana is immune to status effects, it is too cowardly to attack the illusions. Trapped, the creature turns and flees back towards Elma. Elma notes the golden rana's other weakness: it is susceptible to the shadow step skill. He considers the difficulty of the task. The rana is 3 times faster than him, and its shadow is tiny, making a shadow stomp extremely challenging to land. Determined not to fail, Elma charges towards the approaching rana. He pulls out a holy magic stone, noting that while its healing power is low, he has another plan for it. Elma reveals the stone's true purpose, throwing it behind the golden rana where it bursts with a bright light. The brilliant light from the stone casts a long, clear shadow of the Rana directly in front of Elma's. Seizing the opportunity, he unleashes his Shadow Stomp skill. The attack hits its mark, pinning the golden Rana's shadow and immobilizing the creature. Elma's shouts in triumph, having successfully captured their prize. The golden Rana lies stunned on the ground while Elma's stands ready. Luce cheers triumphantly, congratulating Elma on his success. Luce celebrates their near victory. She then questions how Elma plans to defeat the creature now. Elma explains that their only option is to land a critical strike. A critical hit is explained as a powerful attack that deals increased damage and pierces defense. Understanding this, Luce enthusiastically encourages Elma to try as many times as needed. She cheers for Elma to give it his best. However, Elma explains that even a critical hit from him would be ineffective. This leaves Luce utterly confused. Elma tells Luce he is counting on her. He elaborates that a critical hit requires both skill and luck. He explains that he is currently unable to move and land the hit himself. Luce panics, protesting that she has never landed a critical hit before. She believes it to be an impossible task for her. Elma reminds Luce of her dice thrust skill, which she has had from the very beginning. Luce recalls the skill with disdain, remembering how it was dismissed as useless. A description explains that the skill rolls a die from 1 to 6, granting a random special effect. Realization begins to dawn on Luce. Elma excitedly explains that if she rolls a 6, it will result in a guaranteed critical hit. He details how the roll multiplies attack power and guarantees a crit. This combines with her other skills for a massive increase in damage and penetration. A single attack could have its power multiplied by 1.95, with 65% penetration. Despite this, Luce remains doubtful about her chances. Elma reassures her, stating that there is no such thing as a useless skill. He encourages her not to be defined by what others say about her. Looking at her with conviction, Elma asks Luce to lend him her strength. Luce is moved by his faith in her. Her resolve hardens and she grips her weapon tightly. She dashes towards the immobilized golden Rana. Filled with newfound determination, Luce declares that she will not back down and promises to show him what it means to be an adventurer. Elma smiles in encouragement, telling her he is counting on her. She unleashes her dice thrust skill towards the golden Rana. As Luce thrusts forward, the die on her weapon spins rapidly past the number 5. The die finally lands on a 6, triggering a massive critical hit that strikes the golden Rana. The powerful blow sends the golden Rana flying backward, its body cracking from the impact. It collapses, defeated, and a sparkling item drops to the ground beside it. Luce is ecstatic to find she has leveled up from 21 to 27. Elma also levels up to 30. He explains that while golden Ranas give great experience, the real prize is the high-quality item they drop. He notes that the item has a 50% chance of appearing. The dropped item is revealed to be a shining Rana's decorative sword, a rare and valuable weapon. Overjoyed by their luck, Elma and Luce celebrate their incredible find. Luce exclaims in amazement at their find. The shining Rana's decorative sword is displayed, with its value listed as 17 million gold. Elma expresses his disbelief at earning 1.7 million from just one item. Luce tells Elma he's missing a digit in his calculation. Elma clarifies that the item is worth 17 million. Luce tries to count out the large number on her fingers. The realization of the 17 million value hits her, and she collapses. Elma asks Luce if she has managed to calm down. Still clutching the sword, Luce voices her disbelief at getting rich from a single item. Panicked, Luce proposes they run away together to avoid being targeted for their wealth. Elma acknowledges her concern and agrees they should leave quickly. Elma declares his intention to get one more item before they leave. Luce is shocked by his decision to stay. 3 hours pass as Luce repeatedly uses her skill, mostly missing her attacks. Luce successfully lands a critical hit with her dice strike. Elma cheers for Luce's success, noting it's their second drop and that she's leveled up from 31 to 33. He calls out to a stunned and silent Luce. Elma tries to reframe her many failed attempts as saving up her luck. Luce is overwhelmed by the thought of possessing 34 million gold and leveling up again. Elma shouts Luce's name in alarm. As Luce collapses, he urges her to keep it together. Elma tells Luce they need to start thinking about their skill allocations since they acquired 2 items thanks to her. Luce agrees they need to focus, but she's still dazed by the situation. Luce's expression turns serious as she senses something. Elma asks Luce what's wrong as she stares down the empty corridor. Luce asks Elma if he heard the sound of a crying baby. Elma realizes with alarm that the sound belongs to a wandering lord. He explains that the Dream Lord is normally stationary at the end of the dungeon. However, it sometimes leaves its lair to roam, at which point it is called a wandering lord. Luce worries about facing a level 50 monster, but Elma assures her it will be fine if they react appropriately. Elma explains his plan to simply run to the exit, as the Dream Lord won't be able to chase them outside. Luce expresses her relief at the simple escape plan. However, their simple plan is about to be disrupted. A terrified adventurer runs towards them, pleading for help. Both Elma and Luce are stunned, understanding they were too naive. The injured man cries out that they were ambushed by an unexpectedly powerful monster. Elma understands the gravity of the situation. If he leaves them, the adventurers will die. Elma orders Luce to take the injured pair to the exit while he stays behind to hold off the monster. Luce agrees but expresses her doubt that he can handle a level 50 monster on his own. Elma confidently states that he knows the enemy and can buy the necessary time for their escape. Elma states that his main role as a heavy knight is to get the enemy's attention. Luce looks on with a worried expression, calling out his name. Elma confronts the approaching Tin Knight, which is covered in blood. Luce is shocked and hesitant to leave Elma behind. Elma stands his ground, shield raised, urging Luce to take the injured adventurers and flee while he holds off the approaching enemy. The Tin Knight is revealed to be a level 40 monster. Elma observes that the enemy has about half of its health remaining, concluding that it is not a worst-case scenario. Luce points out that the creature is considerably weakened and suggests that the two of them can take it down. Elma rejects her proposal, telling her it is useless and that she needs to run. Elma explains to a stunned Luce that the Tin Knight is not the real body of the Lord of Dreams. He warns that the creature is only equivalent to one of its limbs and that the real body is on its way. Luce is horrified by the revelation. 3 more level 40 Tin Knights march towards them. Elma tells Luce he will buy some time and catch up with her and the others. Luce vehemently protests, refusing to leave him to fight alone. Frustrated, Elma yells at her. Elma bluntly states that he cannot fight these enemies while having to take care of baggage. He calls her a hindrance, leaving her shocked. Hurt, Luce accepts his words and apologizes. She tells him to catch up as soon as he can before running away. Elma watches her go, his face cast in shadow. Elma thinks that if it were just the 3 level 40s, he could have fought them with Luce. However, he knows the real body is still approaching. He admits that he lied about catching up, as his class lacks the necessary speed to flee. He knew that with the magic-wielding Lord of Dreams as an opponent, running away was never an option. The true form of the boss begins to emerge. The true enemy reveals itself, a level 50 floating creature named Embryo. Facing the Lord of Dreams and its minions, Elma resolves that he must defeat it here and now. Elma calls out the Lord of Dreams, Embryo, as it finally shows its face. The Embryo lets out a piercing cry. He realizes that while its stats are low for its level, the main problem is that he cannot damage it. He remembers that the Embryo's flesh has terrifyingly high defense, and its only weak point is its eyeball, which can only be hit by long-range attacks. However, he believes that as long as it has a weakness, it can be defeated. Having gained the Shield Bash skill, Elma tells the Embryo not to keep him waiting. Elma unleashes his Shield Bash skill. The skill sends the opponent flying with considerable force. He thinks to himself that this skill will allow him to break their formation. He skillfully parries an incoming attack. He follows up by disarming one of the Tin Knights. The Embryo watches as Elma handles its minions. He realizes that both of the Embryo's skills, Sylph Cutter and Thunderstorm, cannot be cast without hitting its own Tin Knights. Therefore, he can focus all of his attacks on them. Elma disarms another Tin Knight. He notes that this is his second hit, and that 47 seconds remain from his first disarm. The activation requirements for his skill are met. He unleashes a powerful skill called Rampart Return, sending the final Tin Knight flying. With the minions defeated, Elma understands that the hard part is just starting. Elma acknowledges the defeat of one Tin Knight. However, his relief is short-lived as the true boss, a grotesque Embryo, begins to stir. The Embryo uses its magic to repair the fallen Tin Knight, reviving it completely. Elma prepares himself, knowing the fight is far from over. He understands that as long as the embryo remains, the knights are an endless threat. He knows that the creature's use of magic exposes its vulnerable eyeball. Seizing the opportunity, he rushes forward. He hurls a magic crystal directly at the exposed weak point. The crystal strikes true, visibly damaging the embryo. However, Elma knows this is his only long-range attack that can reach the floating creature. Forced to change his strategy, Elma decides to use the revived Tin Knights as cover from the embryo's attacks. He believes that if he can maintain his guard, he can avoid a fatal blow. He prepares to use his shield to bash through their defenses. To Elma's shock, the Tin Knight dodges his shield bash. The unexpected agility leaves him open, and the other knights quickly move to surround him. Now on the defensive, Elma skillfully parries the relentless assault from the Tin Knights. He manages to land a critical strike on one of his attackers. Frustrated, he realizes these enemies are more formidable than he anticipated. Elma realizes with dawning horror that the monsters are learning. He recalls that in the original game, no monster could react to his shield bash, but here, they are clearly adapting to his movements. He admits that he had not fully considered this possibility. This new development makes defeating the embryo significantly more difficult. Elma calculates he needs 3 more direct hits to defeat the embryo, which is slowly regenerating its health. The realization of this desperate race against time shocks him. Suddenly, the embryo fires its sylph-cutter attack. The creature has sacrificed one of its own Tin Knights to create a clear line of fire, a move Elma thought was impossible. The powerful blast speeds towards Elma. With no time to react, he realizes he cannot dodge the incoming attack. Elma grunts in pain as he takes the full force of the blast on his shield. The embryo watches with a sinister grin as the attack connects. As his consciousness fades, he feels his pulse race. He finds himself unable to put any strength into his legs. The impact has left him stunned and completely vulnerable. He knows that being stunned in this situation is a death sentence as the Tin Knights close in. He regrets not having Luce stay back, believing his low luck has doomed him. Just as a Tin Knight moves in for the final blow, a figure appears. Luce has returned, telling Elma that it was about time he called for her. Luce casts an illusion spell, creating multiple copies of herself to distract the enemy. Elma, shocked, asks why she returned instead of running away. Luce explains she brought the others to safety and came back for him. She confronts him for trying to fight alone after telling her to run, but Elma insists she go back. Refusing to leave, Luce declares she will be stubborn too and stay to fight. She reminds Elma that he risked his life for her and said he needed her strength. She passionately states that abandoning him now would mean she is unworthy of being an adventurer. Elma explains that his only way to damage the embryo is gone, and neither of them has the long-range skills needed. Luce asks if he is giving up. Luce firmly reminds him of his earlier promise to rely on her. Her words reach him and he looks at her, moved. With a bright and determined smile, Luce simply asks him to trust her. Luce asks him to rely on her once more. Listening to her, Elma finally understands and realizes he has been underestimating her. With renewed resolve, Elma tells Luce he is counting on her and that he needs her strength. Luce beams, happy to have her partner's trust back. He declares that they will attack the embryo together. Luce enthusiastically agrees, and the two prepare to face their foe as a team once more. As a Tin Knight charges, Luce shouts that it is coming, while Elma stands ready with his shield. Elma intercepts the charging Tin Knight with a powerful shield bash, staggering the creature. He immediately calls out to Luce, signaling for her to make her move. Seizing the opening Elma created, Luce lunges forward and strikes the stunned knight. She celebrates her successful attack, filled with a newfound confidence. Meanwhile, the embryo watches silently from above. The embryo lets out a cry, and a magical light envelops the area, reviving the fallen knights. Luce looks on in horror, realizing the Tin Knights just keep coming back. Elma explains that engaging with the Tin Knights is meaningless as they will lose a battle of endurance. He declares that they need to take down the embryo directly. Luce asks Elma if he has a plan to accomplish this. Elma reveals his plan. Luce must roll a 6 on her dice thrust, a 1 in 6 chance. He explains that a critical hit from this skill should be powerful enough to damage the embryo even with its eyelid closed. Luce wonders how to reach the high-up target, suggesting her acrobatic steps. Elma immediately rejects her idea, warning that she would be hit by the creature's sylph cutter. Elma proposes a new approach. He will try to close the distance while she follows. Once they are close enough, he will use Shield Bash to throw her directly at the target. He admits the plan is incredibly risky and could lead to both of their deaths if it fails. Seeing no other way, Luce accepts the plan with resolve, vowing to definitely roll a 6. Elma tells Luce he is counting on her luck-increasing skill as they charge into the fray. He lands a critical strike on a tin knight to clear a path. With the way clear, he shouts for Luce to fly as he prepares to throw her. Elma uses his shield bash to launch Luce into the air towards the embryo. He thinks that with the plan perfectly executed so far, all that is left is to pray for good fortune. He remembers her terrible luck against the Golden Rana, where she failed to roll a 6-7 times in a row. Despite this, he clings to a biased guess that things will work out. Elma believes that the probability should stack in their favor. Mid-air, Luce prepares to execute the dice thrust. Elma realizes they only have one chance. The embryo tenses, anticipating the incoming attack. Elma watches with intense focus, pleading for the plan to succeed. The dice roll lands on a 4. Luce's face fills with shock and despair. Elma shares her expression of disbelief as their gambit fails. With a roll of 4, the attack misses the embryo completely. The creature lets out a smug, mocking laugh at their failure. The embryo's maniacal laughter fills the hall as Luce falls helplessly. Below, Elma can only look on in utter horror and frustration at their failed plan.